Like the Concord, my block was the bridge. That was like what Uptown is. If you know anything about Washington Heights in the late '90s and early 2000s, that's what Weeks Ave was back in the day. That was the bridge. That's where everybody went to buy their weight and stuff. There was some real big characters that came up out of there. So I was raised in the midst of a crack den. Not my house per se, but just the area and everything that was around me, from my uncles to my aunts to my moms to, and my grandmother was just a spiritual person. I always went to church, so she had me morally sustained, like going to church, Sunday school, and all that. So in the midst of all that, I always had great morals and how to make great decisions in the midst of the jungle that I was living in. That's why I'm still here today.
So then now, you said 89, you Cam, you meet, and you hang. So when is it, how does the crew progress? How does it get tighter, the relationship between you and Cam? How does it grow?
It grew after Cam and them was good at basketball. Everybody went to college for playing basketball. When they
Behind the scenes, he demonstrated the veracity of everything he had asserted about Jim Jones. However, not everyone is paying attention. Thought that. The majority of people are aware that Wack frequently speaks loudly and occasionally blends hyperbole with the truth. Furthermore, when it comes to long-standing connections in New York, exaggeration can be just as risky as the reality. There was another disagreement going on at the same time that all of this was being discussed. Wax predicts that Max B's latest endeavor will fail, because Max B and Jim Jones had one of the most well-known falling outs in New York history. Those two subjects immediately came together. Whenever one of their names is mentioned, the other one follows. Their separation altered the course of both of their careers, which is why their tale is intertwined, not because they want it to be. Hearing that Max B will fail and that someone close to Mel Murda wants to expose Jim made the connection all over again. It seemed as though old wounds were being reopened. Max B has been gone for too long to make a successful comeback, according to Wack. The young people don't know him, he claimed. Max just has a few weeks left before people lose interest since the industry has changed. However, everybody who was present while Max B and Jim Jones were together is aware that Max's enthusiasm did not diminish over time. His impact increased even while he was incarcerated. The wave he produced, the sound he defined, and the charm that can still be heard in the speech and rhymes of newer artists are all remembered by New Yorkers. Conversely, Jim Jones's career has been based on longevity. He remained relevant despite Max's absence, all the drama, and years of people doubting his actions. He abandoned projects, made contacts, and continued to be involved in music, podcasts, and interviews. Although Jim and Max have different backgrounds, both names are ingrained in New York rap culture. Because of this, every rumor regarding one of them immediately impacts the other. The article you provided demonstrates how the debate gradually moved from Max B's future to Jim Jones's past, when individuals began claiming that Jim Jones had been the target of all this bloodshed. It only indicates that Jim is sending personnel because he feels threatened, according to Wack. Because the dynamics underlying those relationships are too complex for anybody outside the circle to fully comprehend, many people shook their heads at that assertion alone. However, Wack maintained that the calls he receives, the discussions he overhears, and his connections demonstrate that Jim Jones has more issues than the general public is aware of. Then, someone in the meeting mentioned that they had received a call from Mel Murda requesting to talk with Wack because he was looking for a platform. The room altered at that point. If accurate, it implies Mel wishes to make a public statement. Furthermore, what a man decides to say after being released from prison after years of incarceration carries a lot of weight. Nevertheless, several questioned Mel's decision to go with Wack rather than someone from New York or someone with a more respectful understanding of the past. Nevertheless, the rumor continued to spread. The notion that the city does not take it lightly when someone who previously stood close to Jim now tries to expose him. Loyalty is well known in New York. New York is familiar with treachery. New York is aware that when someone claims to want to expose someone, they are either seeking publicity or paying off previous debts, albeit no one is sure which is the case just yet. Jim Jones has kept silent about all of this at the same time. Jim's silence typically indicates one of two things. Either he doesn't think the rumor is worth his time, or he is letting things unfold because everything he says will just fuel an unworthy fire. Jim has always been guarded about what is revealed to the public, particularly when it has to do with old street connections. Jim Jones's silence in the midst of all this commotion just increased the amount of talk about him. Silence is more powerful than arguments in New York. Everyone is aware that Jim is not the kind to immediately get online and reply whenever someone calls his name. Jim's success has been founded on his ability to move tactically, pick his moments, and let his picture do the talking. However, the connection between Mel Murda and Max B is too deep to separate. So whether he responds or not, his name remains associated with every discussion about them. Wack brought old tales back into the public eye as soon as he started linking Mel Murda's release to the notion of exposing Jim Jones. These tales include the well-known breakup between Jim and Max, the long-lasting tension that became one of the most talked-about fallouts in New York, the old friendships inside the Dipset group, and the commercial disputes. Jim and Max's disagreement has never been silent. Fans continue to argue over who was correct and incorrect, and the reason Wax's remarks affected the community the way they did was precisely because of that division. New Yorkers are aware of the value of loyalty in their society. When someone considers exposing someone they once moved with, they are aware of the gravity of the situation. Jim Jones and Mel Murda were connected at a period when the rap industry was completely transformed by the 9-tray predicament. They were in positions where loyalty was paramount, surrounded by the same people and connected to the same surroundings. New Yorkers therefore question whether Wax's claim that Mel was prepared to divulge information was accurate, as well as why it would even be required. What would Mel stand to gain from such a move? Jim would lose what? And why now, after all these years? Many people find the timing strange because it coincides with Max B getting ready to release new music. Max was expected to make a comeback to the limelight with the release of French Montana on January 9th. For the whole of Max's term, French has supported him. He always ensured that Max's name would never be forgotten. He carried the wave that Max started, screamed him out during performances, and consistently brought him up in interviews. Therefore, fans immediately perceived Wack's remark that Max's new endeavor would fail as an unwarranted attack that had little to do with reality. Despite changes in the industry, Max B's influence persisted. Because of the culture, his name has endured. Even newer artists who weren't around to witness his era continue to adopt his style and language without even being aware of its origins. People react negatively when Wax claims that young people don't care about Max, because they realize that influence doesn't go away simply because someone is physically absent. The East Coast is well aware of Max B's charisma, which extended years beyond his physical appearance. Wack added that because Max is unfamiliar with the new system, the streaming era will harm him. However, that argument misses the fact that when an artist has a deep emotional bond with the place, fans don't give a damn about algorithms. Authenticity is still valued by fans, and Max's entire career was based on it. His storytelling, humor, flow, and manner of speaking all contributed to the development of a relationship that endures. Many people think that Max's comeback to music has little to do with chart success, re-establishing contact with his first-day listeners who had been waiting for this. Montana in French, releasing a project with Max is a commitment as much as an economic decision. Long before they became well-known, French and Max worked together to create something. French is aware of how crucial it is for Max to feel supported following his extended absence. By itself, that backing will propel the project well beyond Wack's expectations. People are aware that French will encourage it. New York will support it as they always have, and the fans will spread the word. In the meantime, the energy around Jim Jones is connected to everything that is going on with Max B. Every talk inevitably returns to Jim since their story is incomplete, even though Max is concentrating on his music. People continue to discuss the administrative problems, business disputes, failed deals, and personal frustrations that resulted in their collaboration. Max has consistently given his version, and Jim Jones has consistently defended his position, and both accounts leave sufficient room for years of debate. The scenario is further compounded by the street politics surrounding Jim Jones. Every time Jim is linked to a rumor that someone, particularly Mel Murda, is exposing him, it elicits a different kind of response. New York is aware of the gravity of such a claim. It's not the kind of thing you respond to quickly or with jokes, because the wrong word might escalate into something more serious. It is something that should not be taken lightly. Tension is constantly increased when Wack 100 interrupts these discussions. Some believe that Wack discusses New York issues without fully appreciating their complexity. Some believe that he likes stirring things up and exploiting his position to drive private conversations into the public eye. Given the significance of both events in New York culture, many people think he is seeking attention by attempting to link his name to Max B's return in Mel Murda's release. Nevertheless, there is a portion of the narrative that seems too true to dismiss. Someone really did try to whack. Who and why are the questions. The fact that someone from Mel's circle could have selected any local platform, any New York voice, or any reputable OG in the city if they truly wanted to discuss Jim Jones raises suspicions. It seems deliberate to choose Wack, as if someone intended the public to quickly become aware of the drama, the noise, and the headlines. As the discussion went on, you could hear the voices of those disputing Wack's allegations become frustrated. Nobody wants to see past internal issues brought back into the public eye, so there was a mixture of shock and rage. Many artists in New York have lost their jobs as a result of their private problems becoming public entertainment. They have witnessed how outside voices can distort stories, advance agendas, and cause needless mayhem. Even the individual who disagreed with Wack in the article stated that he needed to see more before accepting anything. He claimed that there is no genuine value to exposing Jim Jones and that it makes no sense. After serving lengthy terms, the majority of offenders return home with the intention of re-establishing themselves in society, reconstructing their lives, and re-establishing relationships with their families. Many people find it implausible that Mel Murda would return home and consider exposing someone he had once stood alongside. Here, Jim Jones sits in the center of it all, peaceful and quiet, and allows the world to speak as he carries on with his life. However, the cacophony surrounding him is not going away anytime soon. Mel Murda's release, Max B's comeback, and Wack's boisterous remarks all work together to make Jim's name stick in every conversation. Jim Jones's silence during all of these discussions demonstrates how accustomed he is to being at the center of arguments that he did not initiate. Jim has experienced legal rumors, public backlash, and street accusations, organization dissolutions, and years of others utilizing his name to get attention or opinions. At this stage of his professional life, he is aware of when to talk and when to let the noise subside on its own. And it seems like this is one of those instances where his silence speaks louder than any answer could. Because New York's response contradicts Wack 100's persistent claims that Mel Murda's staff contacted him. People in the city don't just take such reports at face value without verifying the source. They are aware of Mel's past. They are aware of his loyalty, values, and character. For this reason, a lot of individuals first said that the story was nonsensical. Mel wouldn't require a SWAT if he had something to say. In New York, he is respected enough to have a conversation with anyone. He can choose any significant platform in the city because he has adequate experience. It seems more like someone else's story than Mills's that he would run to a West Coast person who has been publicly at conflict with Jim Jones for years. And for precisely that reason, people start to doubt Wack's motivations. Wack always has something to say when Jim Jones's name is mentioned. Every time Max B is brought up, Wack interjects with a viewpoint that provokes discussion. Additionally, Wack somehow becomes embroiled in every story involving New York artists, even if he is not really connected to them. People assume that Wack likes the attention he receives from interjecting himself into East Coast discussions because of this trend. Regardless of Wack's intentions, his remarks compelled followers to re-examine the lengthy relationship between Jim Jones, Max B, and Mel Murda. These connections were formed during a time when friendships, music, and the appearance of the city were all different. Hip-hop in New York was being shaped by people moving in groups and producing new sounds. Before everything collapsed, Jim Jones and Max B were a part of that wave. Jim and Max once worked together to produce magic. There was no denying their chemistry. Max provided the raw narrative, the charisma, and the wave. Jim provided the organization, vision, and leadership that advanced the cause. Because the music they created together holds memories that have never faded. Fans still discuss that era as if it were yesterday. Thus, the two's disagreement did more than just end their collaboration. Those who thought they were an unstoppable duo were devastated. Years of conflict, interviews, songs, and tales resulting from the fallout kept their names connected long after Max passed away. And the energy surrounding their past is organically resurfacing now that Max has returned home. People want to know if they will ever talk to each other again, if they will ever run into each other, or if the old problems will never be resolved. The moment is heightened by the date of Max's release, French Montana's involvement, and Wack's offensive remarks. There is more to Max B's comeback than just music. It stands for resolution, fresh starts, and an opportunity for him to take charge of his story at last. He was represented by others for years. His talent was disputed by others. His choices were evaluated by others. He can now talk for himself. The city is eager to hear his thoughts. For this reason alone, a lot of people think his endeavor with French Montana will succeed more than Wack says. It's not simply music that people are longing for. They are anticipating Max's arrival. The community is thrilled about Max's return, but the allegations that Mel Murda exposed Jim seem pointless. New York has had enough of outside voices creating drama for amusement. They hope Max makes a successful return. Instead of misunderstanding, they want previous stories to be clarified. Additionally, they want Jim Jones to keep going forward without being pulled back into past conflicts that don't represent who he is now. Even if many people don't agree with Wax's assertions, they can't deny the tension that always arises when someone claims to know something about Jim Jones. Jim's name has frequently come up in discussions, particularly in light of the 9Tay case. The allegations of cooperation, the wiretap rumors, and the instances in which his name surfaced without repercussions are still topics of discussion. Despite the fact that nothing was ever legally proven, those discussions have followed him for years. People like Wack may easily put fuel to the flames whenever they want to create news thanks to that cloud. And that is just what took place in this instance. By stating that Mel Murda, a person close to the situation, wanted to speak, Wack brought the past back into the present. People are aware of how severe that case was and how profoundly it affected New York. So the notion alone causes tension, whether it is real or not. Many relationships ended, many professions were terminated, and many lives were altered as a result of what transpired during that period. Therefore, discussing that time period again is not something that people do lightly. The author of the piece made a compelling argument at the same time. There is no gain in exposing Jim. For years, Mel Murda has been absent. Returning home entails concentrating on reconstructing, reestablishing connections, and rejuvenating oneself. Talking about old problems in public, particularly those involving people you once moved with, is not in line with a man's desire to move on. For this reason, a lot of people think the story is fabricated or overstated to favor Wack over everyone else. Max B, on the other hand, is concentrating on the antithesis of drama. It was evident from his chat with Cam and Mace that he had not lost his humor or spirit. He appeared at ease. He sounded just like himself. Before he went, he still had that charm that made him stand out. Fans were reminded of their initial love for him when they heard him speak once more. It is also shown that his personality is sufficient to propel him into the era of new media. He can succeed in features, podcasts, and interviews. For this reason, Wax's prognosis was not supported by the article you shared. To be successful, Max doesn't have to be at the top of the Billboard charts. All he has to do is show up, be himself, and get back in touch with the people who already adore him. For someone returning home after more than 10 years, success looks different. More than just statistics on a screen, peace, stability, and devoted fans are important. Even if Jim Jones is observing everything from a distance, his presence is still felt. His repertoire is still rather impressive. In New York, his impact is still acknowledged. And despite all the gossip that surrounds him, he doesn't allow anyone to pull him into pandemonium. The city is certain of one thing. When outsiders attempt to define New York's legends, the city will always object, regardless of what Wack says.